comedy show, Keep Laughing. Um, like I've been talking about before, what I want to do, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to steal the audience away from Grey's Anatomy, and I'm competing with Grey's Anatomy. I want my show more cutting edge and humorous, and I want it to be. I'm trying to steal the audience away from Grey's Anatomy. I'm trying to get some of the actors to actually work for me instead of for that show. So I was thinking about setting up like a makeshift operation, like a block away from Grey's Anatomy is produced, and try to compete with them and see how that goes. Okay. Um, so I'm going to start with a reading of Grey's Anatomy and offer some insights that I have into the book itself. And okay, the weight of the encephalon. The weight of the encephalon. The average weight of the brain in the adult male is 49.5 ounces, or a little more than 3 pounds avoirdupois. That of the female, 44 ounces. The average difference between the two being from 5 to 6 ounces. The prevailing weight of the brain in the male ranges from between 46 ounces and 53 ounces. And in the female, between 41 ounces and 47 ounces. And the male, the maximum weight out of 278 cases was... Oh, hi, Marabella. Thanks for joining me. This is my improvised comedy show. And I'm reading from Grey's Anatomy. 65 ounces, the minimum weight, 34 ounces. The maximum weight of the adult female brain out of 191 cases was 56 ounces. Oh, thanks, and I'm glad you're enjoying this. And the minimum weight was 31 ounces. According to Lushka, the average weight of a man's brain is 1,424 grams, about 45 ounces, of a woman's 1,272 grams, about 41 ounces. And according to Krauss, 1,570 grams, about 48.5 ounces for the male, and 1,350, about 43 ounces for the female. It appears that the weight of the brain increases rapidly up to the 7th year. More slowly to between 16 and 20, and still more slowly to between 30 and 40, when it reaches its maximum. Beyond this period, as age advances and the mental faculties decline, the brain diminishes in weight slowly, about an ounce for each subsequent decennial period. These results apply to both sexes. The size of the brain was formerly said to bear a general relation to the intellectual capacity of the individual. Cuvier's brain weighed rather more than 64 ounces. That of the late Dr. Abercrombie, 63 ounces. And that of Dupuytren, 62.5 ounces. On the other hand, the brain of an idiot seldom weighs more than 23 ounces. But these facts are by no means conclusive. And it is well known that these weights have been equaled by the brains of persons who never displayed any remarkable intellect. Dr. Helvenan of Cincinnati has recorded the case of a mulatto whose brain weighed 68 and 3/8 ounces. He was illiterate. Dr. Ensdor, district medical officer at Port Elizabeth, reports that the brain of Carey, an Irish informer, weighed 61 ounces. This is, I'm reading you Grey's Anatomy, and what the point of this whole thing that I'm talking about here is I'm doing an improvisational comedy performance here. And the scenario that I'm setting up is that let's say I'm trying to take over Grey's Anatomy. The show is Grey's Anatomy on ABC, and I'm trying to take over the show, and I'm trying the way I'm going to take over the show is by educating myself to the point that I have the same qualifications as a doctor. But oh, thanks, Maribel. I'm glad you're going to be a subscriber. That's awesome, Maribel. Thanks, and I hope you look forward to my future broadcasts. But so if I educate myself to the point that I have all the medical acumen that a doctor actually has, and teach myself how to act and start my own version of Grey's Anatomy about a block away from where the studios for Grey's Anatomy on ABC is filmed, that I could take over the show, I could steal their fans, and I can steal the audience away from Grey's Anatomy into my show. Okay. M. Nikiforov has published an article on the subject of the weight of brains in Novosti. According to him, the weight of the brain has no influence whatever on the mental faculties, which would imply that the weight of the brain bears some general resemblance to the intellectual capacity of the individual, but it's not directly correlated to the mental faculties. It's not directly correlated to the intellect of the individual. It just bears some general relation to it. It ought to be remembered that the significance of the weight of the brain should depend upon the proportion it bears to the dimensions of the whole body and the age of the individual. It is equally important to know that what the cause of the death for illness, long illness, or old age exhausts the brain. Oh, I'm sorry, Marabella. I hope you join me on my next broadcast, and thanks for becoming a subscriber. Okay. Oh, hi. Hi, History Stuff. Thanks for joining me. I'm reading Grey's Anatomy right now. Okay. To define the real degree of development of the brain, it is therefore necessary to have a knowledge of the condition of the whole body, and as this is usually lacking, the mere record of weight possesses little significance. The human brain is heavier than that of all the lower animals. Good evening, cool gamer. Thanks for joining me. Excepting the elephant and whale. The brain of the former weighs from 8 to 10 pounds, and that of the whale, in a specimen 75 feet long, weighed rather more than 5 pounds. Good evening, cool gamer. Cerebral localization and topography. Physiological and... Oh, you're back on One, I guess. Thanks for joining me. Physiological and pathological research have now gone far to prove that the surface of the brain may be mapped out into series of definite areas, each one of which is intimately connected with some well-defined function. And this is especially true with regard to the convolutions on either side of the fissure of Rolando, which are believed by most physiologists of the present day to be concerned in motion. Those grouped around the fissure being associated with movements of the extremities of the opposite side of the body, and those around the lower end of the fissure being related to movements of the mouth and tongue. Oh, hi, on One, I guess. This is not the place, nor can space be given to describe these localities. But the two accompanying cuts from Ferrier have been introduced and will serve to indicate the position of the more important areas. The relation of the principal fissures and convolutions of the cerebrum to the outer surface of the scalp has been the subject of much investigation, and many systems have been devised by which one may localize these parts from an examination of the external surface of the head. These plans can only be regarded as approximately correct for several reasons. In the first place, because the relations of the convolutions in sulci to the area are found to be very variable in different individuals. Secondly, because the surface area of the scalp is greater than the surface area of the brain. And thirdly, because the sulci and convolutions in two individuals are never precisely alike. Nevertheless, the principal fissures and convolutions can be mapped out with sufficient accuracy for all practical purposes so that any particular convolution can be generally exposed to by removing with a trephine a certain portion of the skull's area. The various landmarks on the outside of the skull, which can be easily felt and which serve as indications of the position of the parts of the beneath, have already been referred to. So what can we glean from this? Maybe. So what I was thinking is actually, so what do you think? So this actually describes like the functions of the brain, but the mind itself, do you think that the mind, that a person's mind is an epiphenomenon of the brain itself? Do you think that the brain, the human brain, is both the starting and ending point of mental processing? Or do you think that there's a prime mover behind all of this, and that the human brain is an epiphenomenon of that the human mind is an epiphenomenon of the brain, or that the brain itself is separate, but that the mind itself is separate from the human brain, that the mind is like the brain is actually, it's kind of like, it's almost like, if I could draw an analogy, if it's like the brain is the car and the mind is the driver. It's like it takes a mind to drive the car, and that the two are separate phenomenons. But let me get back to my my Grey's Anatomy. Okay. So I would now like to talk about brain is the main. So you think that the brain? Do you think that the human brain, is actually the mind, or that there's a separate phenomenon, that the mind and the brain are two separate things? Math is the brain. Math is the brain. This is an interesting observation. But so when you think about it, like the human brain, actually, when you have a thought in your brain, you could like actually technology has gone so far as to map out like the neurons that are lighted up in the brain when you have a certain thought. Like when you think about like sex, for example, there's a certain neuronal pathway that lights up in your brain, and you could actually photograph this pathway. But does the pleasure associated with having sex, the physical pleasure that you have from having sex, you can map it out. You can map out the neuronal pathway in your brain and the pleasure center of the brain that lights up. But how would you describe it? What is this? What is the physical pleasure that you have from like eating food or having sex, or any type of physical pleasure that a person can have? You can map it out in the brain by mapping out the neuronal pathway that lights up. But how could you put this, other than like from a merely clinical standpoint, mapping out this process, and how could it be described esoterically? Can it only be described esoterically, or could it all be described scientifically? And that would, for me, that would be the starting point in addressing this question. Mind will take over the AI mind. I don't see. That's why we got to make sure that this AI thing could actually be a crisis of epic proportions if we don't do something about it. We got to make sure that AI doesn't take over for the human mind, that the human brain and the human mind are the most valuable commodities, and not AI. AI could never come up with a brilliant book or a brilliant movie. AI couldn't really do that. I've read some of the scripts and some of the dialogue and some of the songs that AI tried to come up with. It's soulless. It's soulless tripe. We got to make sure that AI doesn't take over for the human mind, because the human mind is the most valuable commodity, not AI. We got to make sure that the human mind, and that the heart and soul of the human being isn't substituted for by commerce and by shallow human endeavors. There's no such thing as a soul. So somebody in my YouTube audience doesn't believe in the soul. So you still like Metallica? So now we're not talking about the human soul anymore. We're talking about Metallica. That's fine with me. Okay, do I like Metallica? I love Metallica. So Metallica, what's your favorite Metallica song? I want to guess. What's your favorite Metallica song? Mine would have to be "Fade to Black." And I actually wrote a song, actually, "Angel Born in Hell," and I try not to. I don't want to. I try to make my songs totally original, but I have to admit, with this song, there is a riff that's kind of similar to the "Fade to Black" riff. But actually, if you listen to my song, it's like I play it even faster. But I don't want to like. I want my songs to be completely original, but some things sometimes seep from your subconscious into your consciousness, and they enter into your work sometimes. But if there was any song of mine that sounds like a Metallica song, it would be "Angel Born in Hell." So you should check it out on my YouTube channel. It's called "Angel Born in Hell," and it's kind of similar to "Fade to Black," which is actually, I don't know, is it my favorite Metallica song? It might be. It might be my favorite Metallica song. "Fade to Black." It's just that's an epic song. I mean, it's a combination of like a thrash metal song with a ballad almost. Or with it's almost like thrash metal. It's like a beautiful form of like and it's a form. It's kind of like a form of thrash metal that incorporates a beautiful melody to it, and also like a ballad. And it's got different sections. It's got like a faster section. It's got the intro is slower, then it segues into a faster section. It's a brilliant song. My friend's name is Bob. Your friend's name is Bob Hess, British? That's very intriguing. That's very cool. Am I Christian? Well, that's an interesting question. Am I Christian? I was raised Catholic. I don't go to church. I don't pray. I don't read the Bible. I'd be surprised if I wasn't excommunicated by now. Oh, hi, David. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining me. It's this whole discussion started out talking about, or for me, trying to do like an improvised comedy sketch, and called "Keep Laughing," because I have an improvised comedy show, not a sketch, but I have an improvised comedy show that I do on YouTube, and it's called "Keep Laughing." So it started. So this live stream started out as an improvised comedy sketch, as comedy performance, and it's kind of transitioned into a discussion about music. We started talking about Metallica. Somebody asked me if I like Metallica. You still like Metallica, and I still like Metallica. And then I started saying that I wrote a song called "Angel Born in Hell," and it's kind of I don't like to. I definitely don't like to rip off other artists' material, but I would have to admit that it sounds a lot like "Fade to Black." But it's actually the part that's fast is actually even faster than the Metallica part. How would you rate Bob 0 out of 10? Who the fuck is Bob? And and not to mention, okay, first question I have is who the fuck is Bob? Second question I have is like, how would I rate? What aspect of Bob do you want me to rate, or what quality, or what attribute of Bob's would you like me to rate? That's the question I have for you. But anyways, we were talking about Grey's Anatomy earlier, and now we're talking about Metallica. I'm going to go. Bye, David. I hope you join me for my next YouTube live stream. You prayed once. Do you believe in God? There's nothing better than two smooth. There's nothing better than two smooth brains having a conversation. I agree with that. So who believes in the human soul? And who believes that the human soul is an epiphenomenon of the human brain, and that the human soul is an illusion? That is an evolutionary adaptation to give the human being some kind of like reason to want to keep living. 507, what do you mean by that? 507. That's an interesting number. Let me see. So actually, I want to believe in the human soul because there's nothing more terrifying than the thought of like dying and not existing forever. After not existing for an nearly infinite amount of time before you were born, actually dying and then not existing for another, for ad infinitum, for the rest of eternity. So that's why I want to believe in the human soul. But something that I've also pondered is that is it necessary for God to exist for the human soul to for the for a for an immortal soul to exist? Does that necessitate the existence of a God, or can there be the possibility that there's no God, but there is a soul that exists immortally? I touched a poisonous frog. What's a poisonous frog? Is it good or bad? Is it good or bad that you touch a poisonous frog? Well, is it a good kind of poison or is it a bad kind of poison? Because first of all, I used to love frogs. I used to live in Chicago. Well, I still live in Chicago, nearby Chicago, but we used to go to my mom's friend's house, and she lived out in the kind of like out in the suburbs of Chicago, like way out in the boondocks, like way out in like Bartlett or some shit like that. And there used to be like a frog pond at the back of her house, and we used to like capture frogs, and we started like a whole frog community. We even like we built like a frog doll house. We built like a and we used to dress up frogs and outfits like and bankers outfits, and like we used to dress some of the frogs up like school teachers. We dressed some of the frogs up like baseball players, and some of the frogs got dressed up like preachers. We dressed some of the frogs up in suits and ties. Some of the frogs got dressed up in I don't know, all kinds of stuff. We dressed a frog up like a fireman. We dressed a frog up like a waiter. One of the frogs we dressed up like a sorcerer, and we put in this like we had this frog dollhouse. Okay, we set up like a table and chairs. We would have like little tea parties with the frogs, and none of the frogs were poisonous, so I never had any problem with that. But then we threw the frogs. Then we took the frogs and we got really high one night. We smoked pot. We smoked copious amounts of marijuana, and we thought the frogs had transmogrified into these giant frogmen. Because we got so high one night, we thought that the frogs had transmogrified into frogmen, like 7-foot frogmen. And they chased us through the forest. And when we came out of our marijuana high, when we sobered up, it was just a night of like just like copious. We were smoking bongs. We were smoking like pot. We were smoking pot. It was coming out of our ears. For God's sake, we smoked so much fucking pot that night. We thought that these frogmen were after us, so they chased us into the woods. And but then when we got sober, we realized we weren't being chased by frogmen. We were just totally fucking stoned. That was the best. It was like this hydroponic pot that my buddy used to grow in his backyard. This hydroponic pot. It was the best fucking pot. I actually thought I saw a god when I smoked this pot. I was on another dimension. I mean, this pot. I got to recommend this pot to you. What? The frog was black and green. So you touched a poisonous frog that was black and green? For God's sakes, you better wash your hands. Do you have the same condition? No. I mean, I never touched a poisonous frog. I only touched like non-poisonous frogs. But oh, you're back, David. Good. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me. This is going really good. I really like this segment that I do. It's like a improvisational comedy segment. See, it always starts out as a improvisational comedy show. It's me trying to develop my comedy chops, and sometimes I'll just be spewing out nonsense, and sometimes I'll be saying some funny shit. But I'm just trying to like develop my comedy chops, develop my improvisational comedy chops, and just coming up with scenarios, different situations. And sometimes some of the people in my audience like to talk about. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a comedy sketch that I'm improvising, and people know me through my music, and they know my songs and my cover songs and stuff like that. So then sometimes they ask me different musical questions, and then when the conversation will transition into a more musical conversation. But then sometimes it'll transition back into a comedy conversation or a improvisational comedy situation. And so that's where we're at right now. I'm talking to this guy about frogs. Are black and green poisonous frogs safe? Yes. Yes, they are safe. Black and green poisonous frogs are safe, but black and gold poisonous frogs are not. Are not safe. So I would not recommend touching any black and gold poisonous, any black and gold frogs are poisonous. But black and green, you can go to town with black and green frogs. I mean, black and green frogs are the fucking bomb. You could touch them. But, black and frog. Black and gold frogs are not poisonous. Let me clarify. Black and gold frogs. No, wait a minute. Black and gold frogs are poisonous. Black and green frogs are not poisonous. Black and green frogs are not poisonous. Any questions? Okay, that clarifies that. So, do you guys want to talk about music, or do you want me to improvise comedy? Oh, okay. That's great. You're back. That's great. So, I'll be back. Okay, wait a minute. I actually have to go use the washroom, and I sure hope you stay with me. You want comedy? Okay. In a minute or two, because I really got to use the washroom bad, and I want to keep my audience. Comedy. We're doing comedy. Okay, we were talking about music. Now we're talking about comedy. So, if you guys just give me like some kind of scenario, and I'll come with I can improvise a comedy sketch out of that. I had some great ones that like a year or two back, I was improvising some great comedy sketches. One was like, let's say that you work in an office downtown. Let's say that you work in like if you're in Chicago, there's different offices like that big red building downtown. That's CNA. Let's say you work at one of those offices one of those skyscrapers in downtown Chicago, and let's say that you show up to work one day, and this is like a total acid trip. You go to work one day, and that nobody's there except for you. You show up for work, but seated at the desk of each of your coworkers that you used to talk to is a talking plant, a plant that it can actually talk. And so you go up to, let's say your boss's name, your coworker, or one of your coworkers' name is like Fred or Ginger or Sally or whatever the fuck their names are. And you go to work one morning, and you take the train downtown Chicago. You work at CNA or something like that. I used to work at CNA, by the way, when I used to work. And your boss is sitting there, and your boss is gone. Nobody's there, but like on your desk, on the desk of each of your coworkers and your boss and everything is a plant. It's like a plant like whatever kind of plants giant plants from all over the world, different types of plants, but these plants are talking, and there's someone behind me. Yeah, but actually, so let's see what the fuck's going on. You go up to your boss and you're like, what do you mean what the fuck's going on? I mean, what the fuck is going on? There's I came into work this morning, and it seems that all my coworkers and everyone's been replaced by a plant. I don't understand what's going on. We've always been plants. You've always been plants. When I came into work yesterday, you weren't a plant. You weren't like a shrub or any kind of a plant. You weren't like a fern or a bush. You weren't a plant. You were a person. I remember you. You were about 6'1". You had balding. You had gray hair. You were about 64 years old. You were about 40 pounds overweight. You were the regional manager of sales at CNA, and now you're a fucking plant? What do you mean I was a 64-year-old balding man? I take exception to that. I'm a proud plant. I'm a proud specimen. I'm a proud fern bush. Not a fucking person. I transcend humanity. I'm a fucking plant. What could be better than a plant? First of all, plants don't have sentience. Plants don't think. Plants don't talk. Plants don't have human emotions. Yes, they do. What do you mean they do? Plants have human emotions. Plants talk. Plants can communicate with people. Of course. But when I saw you yesterday, you weren't a plant. You were a person. You were Fred the boss at CNA. Well, now I'm Fred the plant boss at CNA. Okay, here's the hook. Here's the catch. You find out that all along, Fred was really there. Fred was underneath his desk, and he was talking to you through the desk. And it only appeared that the plant was talking, but it was actually Fred Garvin, the plant. I mean, it was Fred Garvin, your boss at CNA, not Fred Garvin, Fred Tamlinson, the boss at CNA, the regional manager of sales, who was your boss. And so he was like underneath the desk, and he was like talking to you through the desk, and you thought the plant was talking. And so like all these other people, all the other coworkers had the same experience. You see somebody, your friend Sally, who's a coworker of yours at CNA, she's talking to Susie. Susie was talking onto the desk, and she was like trying to pretend that she was a plant too. So in each of these different each of these different desks, at each of these different desks, there was like somebody hiding underneath the desk, and they were trying to pretend that they were plants and that they were talking and communicating with these people. But so that's like so that's my little plant improvisational skit. So do you want me to do another improvisational skit? Let me think of another scenario. Let's think here. What other skits can I do? I think I did some kind of like variation of that. So you don't want to be a plant. Okay. So, oh, thanks. I'm very flattered by that, Fizz. Thanks. So, let's just say that you wake up one morning. Let's say that you live in a farming community in Nebraska. You work on a farm. You live in a farming community in Nebraska, and you go to bed one night, and you're in this bed, and it's like a really lonely, remote place, and you wake up in the middle of the night, and the bed is floating above Central Park in New York City, and you're on your bed, and you're floating above Central Park in New York City. It's the year 2124, so it's like 100 years from now. So you wake up, and it's in 2024 right now, and you live on a farm in Nebraska, and you go to bed, and you wake up, and it's the year 2124, in New York City, and there's a cover band in playing a gig. No, it's not a cover band. It's Rush itself, the band Rush. So you're in your bed in Nebraska in the year 2024. When you wake up, it's the year 2024, and the band Rush is doing a gig in Central Park with Marshall Stacks, the whole bit, with like 1 million fans, and you're laying in bed, and Geddy Lee is in the middle of playing the song Tom Sawyer. Today's Tom Sawyer, he gets high on you. In the space he invades, he gets by on you. And then all of a sudden the concert stops. And then Geddy Lee levitates 100 feet up to your bed. And he says, in the space he invades, he gets by on you. And then he says, and he looks at you in your bed, and he says, like, guess what space I'm invading tonight? I'm invading your dreams. I'm going to turn your dreams into nightmares tonight. So that's Geddy Lee, and he's like invading your space. And the space he invades, he gets by on you. Don't put him down as arrogant, though his mind is not for rent. Don't put him down as arrogant. Always hope for your discontent. His changes are permanent. Those changes. So then, what happens next is that you find out that, unbeknownst to you, Geddy Lee and Rush, the whole band, is immortal. And they're immortal. And it's now the year 2124. And the whole cycle of birth, death, and rebirth has happened for Rush. And here they are in 2024 giving a gig in Central Park. How did you get there? How did you arrive there? You were in Nebraska, and in your bed, traveled all the way to Central Park. You're floating above a Rush concert in Central Park in the year 2024, and Rush is giving a performance of Tom Sawyer. And you find out that it's a live performance that's actually going to end up as a video for Rush. Because Rush is like remixing 2112 in the year 2124. 2112 in the year 2124, because in the year 2112, Rush has done a whole remix of the album 2112. In the year 2112, Rush, the rock band Rush, has remixed 2112 and actually even wrote a few new songs for the album. A whole bunch of new songs and a remix of the old songs to give you the ultimate 2112 experience. So it's the year 2124 and it's the year 2124 in New York City, and the bed is levitating above Central Park. And it's all being filmed for a Rush video, which is going to be a live performance of Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer. So that's a scenario for this. So that's why your bed floated all the way from Nebraska to New York City and is hovering above Central Park in New York City. And that's why it's floating above the Rush concert in 2112, because it's the 12-year anniversary of the remix with bonus songs of 2112 that Rush did in the year 2112. And the prophecies that were put forth by the album 2112, you could see whether or not these prophecies actually came true. I mean, if they were right about these prophecies, that the prophecies that were put forth in the album 2112, you're going to be able to find out if these prophecies actually come true in the year 2112. But by 2124, we will all know if the prophecies that were put forth in the album by Rush about 2112, that were put forth in the album 2112, in 2124, we're going to, by then, we will have known for 12 years whether or not these prophecies have come true. But here we are at a Rush concert in 2124. We're in a video that was filmed for 2112. And so we get to meet Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson and the rest of the band. And but then what happens next? What happens next? The captain and Tennille steal Rush's instruments and they drive off in a van, and they can't continue the rest of the concert. They drive off with their amps and the guitars, and the captain and Tennille, who are also immortal, have learned all the Rush songs, and they're competing with Rush, and they want to do better versions of the Rush songs. I'll be right back because I gotta go use the washroom. It is just utter mayhem. The captain and Tennille have stolen Rush's instruments in the year 2124, and they've driven off with them in a van. Stop them, please, somebody stop them. The captain and Tennille have Rush's gear. What the fuck are we going to do? The captain and Tennille can't play Rush songs, can they? Can they competently... Because the Captain and Tennille, they want to form the ultimate Rush cover band in the year 2124. 12 years after the reissue in 2112 of the ultimate 2112, the ultimate version of the Rush album 2112 that was remixed with bonus songs. So here we are in 2124, and the Captain and Tennille have stolen Rush's equipment because the Captain and Tennille want to form the ultimate Rush cover bands. But the Captain and Tennille can't play Rush songs, can they? Can the Captain and Tennille play Rush songs? Oh, come on, bullshit. But lo and behold, the Captain and Tennille learned how to play their songs better than Rush. The Captain and Tennille have not only learned how to play Rush's songs, they could fucking play them better than Rush. And Rush is not only pissed off about this, but really fucking... Riley McManus. Oh, hi, Riley. I'm just doing some comedy here. I am okay. I'm just doing some comedy. I'm just improvising a comedy sketch here. I was talking about Rush. Okay, so what I was talking about was, let's say that... okay, let's just say that... here's how the comedy sketch started, okay? Let's say that you live in a farming community in Nebraska. You go to bed one night. It's a really lonely, isolated community in Nebraska. And let's just say that you go to bed one night and you wake up. It's like you wake up in the middle of the night and your bed is hovering. It's floating above New York City, above Central Park in New York City. The bed is like floating up there. And what's below you? It's a It's Rush. It's the band Rush performing a concert with millions of people out there. But you find out that the Rush concert that's being performed is okay. Let's say in the year 2112, that you've heard of the album 2112 by Rush, right? Let's say like in the year 2112, Rush releases a reissue of that album with bonus material and remixes of the songs to give you the ultimate um, copy of 2112, the ultimate version of 2112. So um, here we are in 2124, and Rush is like playing a gig, but Captain and Teal come by and they steal the Rush's equipment and their gear because they want to form a cover band, a Rush cover band. Okay, that was probably enough for that sketch. Hi Jackson. It's good to see you. So, what have you been listening to, Jackson? What have you discovered any new albums? What are you listening to these days, Jackson? Jackson Brown? Do you like Jackson Brown? Do you like Joe Jackson? What's your favorite? What's your favorite Ace? What was that? What's your favorite SCP? If you know what it is, okay. Jackson Brown. You like Jackson Brown? That's not your favorite singer though, is it? He is good. Um, does anybody in the audience like the band, the punk rock band from England, the Clash? Does anybody audience like the punk rock band, the Clash from England? Okay, who's still there? Is Jackson still there? Who's still in the audience there? What would you like to discuss? What is there any? Oh, good. I'm glad you're still there. Thanks for joining me. Um, I think I would like to talk about the evolution of punk rock. Punk rock started in the 1970s, but before punk, there was something called proto-punk. It was prototypical punk. It was kind of like the precursor to punk. You had bands like Patti Smith and Television. Then you had bands like the New York Dolls. You had Iggy and the Stooges from Detroit, Michigan. You had who else is a proto punk? You had um, okay, so yeah, the MC5, Motor City Five. Some of the bands that influenced punk. Some of the bands that punk was born out of. Then you had from Then you had garage bands from the '60s. The garage bands from the late '60s. You had even some people might even say that the Monkees were an influence on punk or were proto punk um, because of the garage band type of style. There was let's see, what else is proto punk? What else was the was the punk movement born out of? Let's see. Oh, hi, Ripon, Wisconsin. Ripon, Wisconsin. You're from Wisconsin? Cool. Yeah, I haven't been there for a while. I want to go back up to Wisconsin and do some vacationing. Are you still in the audience? Okay, so um, are you saying that Ripon is a band from Wisconsin? Well, who do you think are some of the precursors of punk? Who do you think are the like? How do you think punk rock was born? What do you think the biggest the most prototypical bands are that influence punk rock? Oh, hi. Oh, we got another person there? Good. I'm having a problem with this camera. It just keeps freezing on me. But, some of the bands like Patti Smith from New York was kind of a precursor to punk. Then you MC5 and Iggy and the Stooges from Detroit. Then you had like the Monkees. Well, I mean, the Monkees. I don't know if you could really say that the Monkees were proto-punk, but they were just the whole garage band scene. Because what happened, we really analyze this. Back in the late '60s, Beatlemania was huge back in the late '60s. So, but there were a lot of and it spurred on a lot of these garage bands. A lot of these garage bands across America that were influenced by the Beatles. And of course, they didn't have as many fans as the Beatles, obviously, but they wanted to do like their own thing. They wanted to do like their own kind of like indie version of the Beatles at a low budget. Oh, thanks, that's really nice. They wanted to do kind of like their own, they wanted to be the Beatles because everybody wanted to be not only did they love the Beatles, but they wanted to be the Beatles. So they wanted to start their own band like the Beatles, but they didn't have the wherewithal. They didn't have the money for the equipment, so they had to have low budget garage bands, just bands in America, all across America. People are starting garage bands, and probably one of the most successful of those garage bands was the Monkees. But in a way, these garage bands influenced like what we call proto-punk, kind of like the precursors of punk rock. Bands like Patti Smith and bands like the Stooges, people that were trying to ape these bands. But then what happened was this really caught on, and they wanted because a lot of these people from the late '70s, they thought that what they were hearing on the radio was just total crap, and they wanted to do something that was more pure and raw and full of heart and soul. They didn't want to hear any more fucking Captain Tennille and Neil Diamond, and they just had enough of all this wimpy stuff I like some. No, don't get me wrong. I like a few Neil Diamond songs, but they were just getting sick of all this really boring soft rock, all this stuff. I'm trying to think of an example here, Jim Neighbors or what was some of the soft rock crap from the '70s. But they were getting sick of all that crap. They wanted something more raw and urgent, and they had enough Captain and Tennille, and they heard enough Doobie Brothers. I mean, there's some good Doobie Brothers that I like, but some of the wimpier, lighter stuff. They wanted to rock again. They really wanted to fucking rock, and that's what punk rock was born out of. Now we're rocking again. So punk rock it's this burgeoning scene happening all over America and even in England. You had in New York, you had the Ramones, fucking awesome band full of heart and spirit and soul and passion. You had the Sex Pistols, you had the Buzzcocks, you had Susie and the Banshees, cool fucking stuff. You heard enough crap on the AM radio in the '70s, all this wimpy stuff like Anne Murray and crap like that. You wanted to hear some good shit, right? So you got the Ramones, you got the Sex Pistols, you got the Circle Jerks, you've got the Adam and the Ants, you've got the Clash, you've got the Buzzcocks, you've got Iggy and the Stooges, you've got, and so, these bands were really, by the way, these bands are really inspired by it. Some of the biggest influences of some of these bands mentioned are the Doors. They love the Doors and they love the Monkees. Oddly enough, some of these bands love the Monkees and they love the Doors because some of these bands really like that song "Stepping Stone" by the Monkees, but they love the Doors and they love, but they don't like wimpy light stuff. But so that's punk. But so you've got all these bands forming all over America and garages all across America. People are just starting up bands, and it's really started a scene. And But I was just like analyzing the whole evolution of punk rock, and you could really chase it. And also, there's another band called Captain Beefheart. They're based in like California, but it was a really avant-garde type of stuff. It was like kind of really just kind of surreal, bizarro stuff, just kind of like stream of consciousness. The Velvet Underground, that's another good example of Velvet Underground was a huge influence on punk. Anything that's all about like the music, for me, punk rock is like anything that's all about like not about the almighty dollar, but it's all about the music and the passion and the love of the music and not the love of like being famous and making money. That's what punk rock's about. But of course, at the end of the day, everyone's got their price, and who wouldn't want the money and who wouldn't want fame? So it's like kind of like a vision. It's kind of like, you know, it's hard to escape that. It's like people want to have integrity, but then if they're offered like a chance at stardom, who wouldn't take that? It's really weird. It's kind of like when the Replacements, when they got their big break, that wasn't their best album. They had an album called "Don't Tell a Soul," and it just wasn't their best album. But they kind of softened their approach. They really kind of like made it more like overproduced and pure, and it just didn't sound like the Replacements. And so it's kind of like it's art versus commerce, you know. But and they didn't make their best album, and it didn't, you know. It was almost poetic justice that it wasn't their biggest selling album either. I think their best album was probably "Let It Be" or "Tim," but they just recently released an album by Replacements, "Tim." It's like the "Let It Bleed" edition, whatever the fuck that means. But yeah, the Velvet Underground. They were fucking awesome. The Velvet Underground from New York, Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. Yeah, they were fucking awesome. Um, and did you ever have television? They used to play at the CBGBs. Did you ever have a band called Television? It's like if you want to watching the band Television is like immensely more satisfying, fulfilling on many levels than watching television itself, which could be soulless and boring. Um, let's see, what else should we talk about? Do you want to talk about the birth of heavy metal, the birth of country rock? Who likes country rock? Because I don't like just strictly like punk rock, and I don't strictly like jazz or folk or any one thing. I do like some country. I do like some pop. I like Katy Perry. I like Miley Cyrus. I like Olivia Rodrigo. Because did you happen to know? Little known fact: Olivia Rodrigo is influenced by punk. She's a fan of some of this punk. But and Billie Eilish, I'm a huge fan of her. What else do you want to talk about? Happy to have a YouTube audience. What should we talk about now? We were talking about the birth of punk rock, and then I said, like, should we talk about another genre now, like country or jazz or blues or folk or bluegrass or pop or disco or rap or anything else? What do you guys want to talk about? What or heavy metal? What kind of music do you want to talk about? Ska? Do you want to talk about reggae? Do you want to talk about experimental electronica? Do you want to talk about noise art? Marvel? Do you want to talk about Marvel? Marvel Studios? Yeah. I don't get out and see too many Marvel movies, but I guess they are pretty good. Um, what's the latest Marvel movie? Did you see Spider-Man? I like how my YouTube audience likes to talk about everything under the sun, not just music, not just movies, but anything. We were talking about Grey's Anatomy an hour ago. So what do you want to talk? You want to talk about Marvel Studios? Interesting. Marvel. You know what we should do? We should stage a coup de Marvel. Let's go over to Marvel Studios and try to like set up our own version of Marvel Studios and see if we can film movies that are low budget superhero movies. Of course, our budget would probably be about $100 per movie, but maybe that's all it would take with the proper amount of imagination applied to it. Do you like progressive rock? Oh yeah, stuff like Zappa. I love Frank Zappa's music. Yeah, I love Frank Zappa's music. Do you have the album "We're Only in It for the Money"? He's got an album called "We're Only in It for the Money," which I think is one of the funniest album titles ever. Do you have that album? That's his classic, actually. Um, and of course, I was just kidding before. I don't have any integrity. I'm only in it for the money. No, I'm kidding. I do have integrity. I'm not only in it for the money. I'm in it for the artistic experience, the artistic satisfaction, the the satisfaction you get out of um, setting artistic goals for yourself and bringing them to a satisfying completion, to a to realizing the artistic goals that you set for yourself, to actually achieving those goals to your own satisfaction. That's what I'm in it for, not for the money. But I do love money, and But anyways, Marvel. Do you like progressive rock? I love progressive rock. Well, my favorite progressive bands are Yes and Genesis. But if you count Rush, that depends on whether or not you really consider Rush to be a progressive rock band. If you do include Rush in the progressive category, I would have to say Rush is my favorite progressive band. But some people don't consider Rush a progressive band because it's more like in the hard rock genre, and they only kind of like it's only like progressive rock tinged. But I would actually say that Rush is like, yeah, it is a progressive rock band, but it's more than that. It's really kind of like a progressive rock, hard rock hybrid. I mean, I think they're like the hardest rocking progressive rock band, and that's what I like about them because my taste kind of lean more towards hard rock than if they do like the kind of progressive rock you would hear in a band like Genesis or Yes. But I typically like harder edged rock and roll. But progressive rock can be great. As a matter of fact, do you have the Genesis album? Um, it's the album that contains that song, I Know What I Like and I Like What I Know. Is it Trick of the Tail or is it Genesis? But it's a great Genesis album. It's back when when like Peter Gabriel was kind of like the primary songwriter for Genesis, and they just had their most brilliant stuff back then. But yeah, it's Frank Zappa, Rolling for Money. Did you ever hear the song Valley Girl by Frank Zappa? Awesome fucking song. So yeah, what's your favorite progressive rock band? What's your favorite band? Um, my favorite band, my favorite band has always been the Pixies. You know, it's been the Pixies for years. But then, I'm discovering all these new bands too. That I mean, my favorite band of is the Pixies. The band that I grew up with is the Pixies. I mean, I always loved the Replacements, the Pixies, Husker Du, REM, the Violent Femmes. Those are some of the bands that I grew up with. But then I've recently discovered all these great new bands that I'm really into, like the Kills. That I like. Do you like the Kills? Then there's um, Captain Beefheart, who's always been one of my favorite bands. Um, X is great, and XTC is a great band. Um, Nirvana, of course. Soundgarden. I'm just giving you the cream of the stuff that I think is the cream of the crop music. The bands that I think are the very best. So, including this, like I wouldn't include like certain bands like Stone Temple Pilots or Creed in the best bands of all time, or bands like I'm not into like I wouldn't consider Weezer one of the best bands of all time, although I do like some of their stuff. And I wouldn't include bands like, like Better Than Ezra or stuff like that. I'm talking about the cream of the crop, Soundgarden, Screaming Trees, um, Tom Waits. Um, Talking about the best fucking bands, not just like this B-listers or the second-rate stuff, the replacements. The Breeders, the Pixies, the top-notch, A number one, the best stuff, the best fucking stuff. There's a band called Lone Justice I really like. X out of Los Angeles, the Ramones out of New York, Television, Matthew Sweet, the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed, Bruce Springsteen. Um, all the five-star material, all the bands that, in other words, the bands that have like five-star albums, that have like some of the best rock and roll albums of all time, like Born to Run. Wait a minute, there's an English band called Cardiacs. Have you heard of them? No, I haven't. If not, check them out. My favorite progressive rock band, the Cardiacs. It's a cool name for that. Yeah, I gotta check that out. The Cardiacs. You check that out. Do you like Frank Black's solo? You gotta hear this Frank Black solo album called Teenager of the Year. It's called Teenager of the Year. It's just brilliant. It's got like it's like a combination of like hardcore punk, pop, even a little like bluegrass and country, jazz. You'll find everything under the sun on this album. And he actually hired a guitar player named Lyle Workman to work on the album. And it's just a brilliant album. Oh, okay. So I was going back to some what I think are the best rock and roll bands, the most influential, the most cutting edge, innovative rock and roll bands. Perubu. It's kind of like an experimental avant-garde band out of Cleveland, Ohio. Of course, the Pretenders, another band out of Ohio. Iggy Pop is great. Iggy and the Stooges. If you notice, I'm not naming like kind of like the bands that are good but not great. I'm just naming the great bands. The stuff that's like you would like if you were a teacher, if A through F, not the stuff that you would give like a B to, just the A, the stuff that would get like A pluses. Okay, Cardiacs are very punk, so it's kind of like punk progressive. It's really interesting. They have a punk rock band that is also progressive, like a progressive band that dabbles in punk, or is it like a punk band that incorporates progressive influences into their punk rock? That's pretty cool. I got to check that out. The Cardiacs, I'll check that out. But the Smiths, of course, out of England. See, there's certain bands that are coming to mind that are good but not great. They're very good, or maybe even very good. You might give them a B plus, but you wouldn't give them an A. So I'm gonna like make this a very elite list here, and bands that like just barely make the list. The Violent Femmes, I could put them on the A list because they're just like they just made it. They're just they're great, but they're not just barely great. Okay. The Talking Heads, you would put on the A list. Nirvana's on the A list. The Replacements are on the A list. There's a lot of very good bands that I'm not mentioning, but I'm just giving you the A list bands. Let's see. Lou Reed's on the A list, but strange questions. Do you like AC/DC or Queen? Yeah. I like AC/DC better than Queen. When I was a kid, I really used to like Queen, but then I kind of found them a little bit too pretentious and silly. Fadamusha, do you do the fandango? Very, very frightening. Galileo, 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 take me out. Beelzebub and the devil for me, for me, for me. So I mean, I kind of found that a little bit silly and annoying, but I have to admit it's great. Okay, it's actually silly and great. So yeah, I'm a Queen fan, sure. And AC/DC, how can't you like AC/DC? Everybody likes AC/DC. I think anybody at any age loves AC/DC. So yeah, they're on the A list. Um, U2. I could divide U2's career into two different parts. The first part of U2's career was phenomenally great. The second part was a total bore. So I love like their first several albums are outstanding, cutting edge, great music. And then once they released Pop, the U2 album Pop, I didn't dig that album. I just thought it was like just really too like the lyrics got like really mediocre, the songwriting, the hooks were gone. Everything was just kind of like was like what the fuck happened here? So but I do like the War is a great album. The Joshua Tree is great. October's even pretty good. Boy is a good album. The Unforgettable Fire is great. Even Rattle and Hum, I'm even a fan of that. But then it started getting kind of like I don't know. I just didn't like what they were doing at some point. I just didn't like they got like they were doing like dance music or something, and they were doing like dance beats like techno stuff or like and it seems like the inspiration was gone. They lost the inspiration, and they kept coming up with album after album of kind of like more mediocre stuff, and I've just been really disappointed by them. I'm still holding out for them to come up with another great album, and I still do think it's possible. So I'm really hoping for that. I'll really be disappointed if the next album is not good. But I'm hoping that they'll make a huge comeback and stranger things have happened. Maybe they will come back with a great album again. And I do think it's possible because they have huge amounts of talent. So they just said, you know what they got to do? They got to spend more time as a band. You two has got to get together and start spending more time as a band and just really spend the time that it takes and really concentrate on great music and becoming inspired again. But I do think it's possible. Who else do you want to talk about? See, okay, so the other great A-list bands would be the Breeders, the Pixies, REM, the Doors, going all the way back to the late '60s, the Doors. Um, Actually, I'm trying to decide. Do you people think that the band Garbage, the Scottish band Garbage, do you think that they're an A-list band? What's your favorite? I don't know what an SCP is. I don't know what the fuck they mean by that. But so hence I don't know what my favorite one is because I don't know what that is. But anyways, what do you think um, do people like Graham Parker? You know the English songwriter Graham Parker. Are you a fan of him? And would you put him on the A list? And so he's got some great material, but then he's got a few like weaker efforts. But I actually saw Graham Parker at a school on the south side of Chicago back in I would say it was around 2006 or something like that. Yeah, it was Graham Parker. It was he doing a solo tour. He was like at a school. It was like you know really cheap and everything, but he gave a great performance. It was pretty much just I think it was just him and an acoustic guitar. It was at like a school, like on the south side of Chicago, and he was just sounding just as good as ever. But he just did this really kind of like off the cuff gig at a school on south side of Chicago. It was really cool. But I think that was around yeah, it was around 2006 or somewhere in that era. But yeah, it was awesome. But um, what do you think the best Graham Parker album is? I would actually have to say it's either Squeezing Out Sparks or um, what about what would you put the Who? Would you put the Who on the list on the A list? Yeah, the Who, of course. Yeah, Who's Next and Tommy and Quadrophenia. Yeah, the Who would have to go on the A list. Um, what about Bob Dylan? Of course, you put Bob Dylan on the A list. Um, Who else is on the A list? I would actually have to put um, John Tesh. Did you know that John Tesh has a solo music career? The guy that used to be on like Entertainment Tonight, John Tesh. And also, he's on the A list, and also the guy from Full House that used to, that John Stamos, he's got a music career. I would put him on the A list. So John Tesh and John Stamos. I'm just kidding. They're not on the A list. They're like on the D list. No, but no, I don't want to. I don't want to insult John Stamos. He's a nice guy. Let's put him on the A list, okay? John Tesh, A list, okay? No, John Tesh is on the D list, but John, I'll put John Stamos on the A list just for being such a nice guy, okay? And maybe what? I can't even knock his music because I've never heard it. I've never heard his music, so maybe now I'm being too nice. Metallica? Oh, A list, yeah, A list. Metallica's on the A list, except for the recent stuff. Well, I don't know. 72 seasons. 72 seasons. Have you heard 72 seasons? And if so, would you put that album on the A list? Is it on the A list? Yeah, Metallica I would put on the A list. They got the for the Black album and for um, the album Master of Puppets and Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning and Death Magnetic and um, what else is them? What other Metallica albums are there? There's Loaded, Reload, Load. There's Metallica. Um, what else do they have? Garage Days Revisited. Metallica. Um, that might be it, huh? Saint Anger. Metallica Saint Anger. And Justice for All. And Justice for All. That's a great one. Actually, I think one of the best songs I ever wrote was One. I mean, it's really dark. It's about a Vietnam veteran. That's a dark song, and that's a great album. But I mean, it's like some people actually make the argument that the album in Justice for All is like the production is really bad. It's kind of like a trebly production, and that it doesn't have a warmth to it, and that it's a terrible like recording, and that like it's all kind of like Metallica and Lou Reed. Did you ever hear that album? It's called Lulu with Metallica and Lou Reed. It's a really bizarre album, really cool. Yeah, yeah, Lulu, Metallica and Lou Reed. That's a really cool fucking album. I have that album. I haven't heard it for years, but I gotta hear that again. Metallica and Lou Reed. It's kind of like an experimental type of avant-garde type of project that Metallica did with Lou Reed. So you're a big Lou Reed fan, huh, Ken Allen? Um, um, what's your favorite Lou Reed album? Let's see. It seems like I have a lot of people like my YouTube subscribers are big Metallica fans. That's really cool. Okay, so um, let's see. So what should we talk about now? Um, wouldn't it be funny if John Stamos from Full House did an album with Slayer? If like they actually if the band Slayer actually wanted to put John Stamos on lead vocals on their next album. John Stamos, the guy from, the guy from Full House, John Stamos. If he was on the next Slayer, a hardcore thrash metal band, Slayer, if they went up with John Stamos on lead vocals, be fucking awesome. What's up, bro? What's up? Yeah, I got a lot of youngsters in my audience, a lot of 20-something people. What's up, bro? um, yeah, what if I? But the question that I wanted to pose to my YouTube audience is, what if? Do you think, like, in all possible realities, in an infinitude of possible realities, that it is remotely possible that the band Slayer would ever want to use John Stamos as their lead singer for their next album? Okay, so maybe not. Okay, let's see. What should we talk about now? But I think within an infinitude of possibilities, within an infinitude um, of possibilities, that it might be a remote possibility that Donny Osmond would want to work with John Stamos. I have an idea. What if Donny Osmond were to collaborate with John Stamos on a thrash metal album? And they opened for Metallica. And they would start a new world tour. It would be a thrash metal band started by Donny Osmond and John Stamos from Full House. So we got to come up with a name for this band. What's like a cool heavy metal name for a band featuring John Stamos and Donny Osmond? I guess it would be John Stamos on lead vocals and guitar and Donny Osmond on backup vocals. Or no, it would be Donny Osmond on lead vocals. And because Donny Osmond stuff is very metal, isn't it? It's like you got the songs like I think it lends itself very well to metal, heavy metal. He's got that song. Donny Osmond's got that song. What's it called again? And they call it puppy love. 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 So that's just to give you an example of like how heavy metal Donny Osmond is, and how well I think it would lend itself to a thrash metal band featuring Slayer. Wait a minute. No. What I was saying is that it would be like a thrash metal band that was inspired by Slayer, featuring Donny Osmond and John Stamos. And just to make my case for why Donny Osmond would be perfect for a thrash metal band, I sang a little snippet of Puppy Love by Donny Osmond. Or Donny Osmond. Donny Osmond. Donny Osmond. Okay? Donny Osmond. Oh, hi. Oh, thanks for joining me. So who's there right now? Do you think that you have a band named Empty House? Are you going to be touring? Oh, what's up, mysterious man? I was just talking to Jack Attack, and I wanted to ask him if he thought that a thrash metal band inspired by Slayer featuring Donny Osmond on lead vocals and guitar, and John Stamos on rhythm guitar would be a good idea. Are you still there, Jake, I think? Okay, cool. Okay, so Donny Osmond, and so a new heavy metal band, thrash metal, that was inspired by Slayer, featuring Donny Osmond on lead vocals and John Stamos on backing vocals and rhythm guitar. That would be the right mix. And then who would be on drums? Who should we put on drums? We could put who would want to be the drummer for that band? Who would want to be the drummer for that band? I'm sure that you would have a long line of people waiting to be drummer for that band, but I'm just trying to guess, like, who do you think would want to be the drummer of a band, of a thrash metal band inspired by Metallica, featuring Donny Osmond on lead vocals and John Stamos on rhythm guitar and backing vocals? Who would want to be the drummer of that band? Would it be? Do you think? Let's see. Who should we put on drums in that band? I'm trying to figure this out. Should it be Stuart Copeland from the Police? The drummer for the Police. Would he want to be the drummer? Do you think, in other words, in your wildest dreams, do you think Stuart Copeland would ever want to be the drummer of a band fronted by Donny Osmond on rhythm guitar? No, Donny Osmond would just be the lead singer, and John Stamos would be on rhythm guitar and backing vocals. Do you think in your wildest dreams that Stuart Copeland would want to be the drummer of that band? Anybody? I think it's a remote possibility within an infinitude of possibilities. I think remote possibility. And I think if said band were to form and truly were successful, said band, you might have to be drunk or something. You're right. Or smoking pot. Because I actually think Stuart Copeland, I think he's not like a stoner or anything, but I do think he smokes a little bit of pot. As a matter of fact, I happen to know, actually I read somewhere that Sting dabbles in pot. He smokes a little bit of pot. He drinks a little bit. He's not like an alcoholic or anything, but he's a light drinker and kind of like a light pot smoker. When he's not doing yoga, he might smoke a little bit of pot, make sure it's not laced with anything. But, so Sting, and wait a minute, should Sting be in the band too? Let's put Sting in this band. So Sting could play bass. Awesome. Get this. Okay. We're going to start a new band, a new thrash metal band, inspired by Slayer, fronted by, get this, fronted by Donny Osmond. He'll be singing the lead vocals. The rhythm guitar chores will be done by John Stamos, the guy from Full House. This is like a super group. He'll be doing the rhythm guitar and backing vocals. Okay. All right. So then on bass, who's the bass player? The bass player is going to be Sting. She'll be happy to do this. He's got a lot of free time. He's got a lot of time on his hands. So it'll be Sting on bass, and then Stuart Copeland on drums. And, another idea. The name of the band is going to be The Police Mach 2. So it'll be kind of like the 21st century edition, the 21st century version of the Police, the band Police, the ska, reggae, pop, punk band from the 80s, the Police. The new incarnation of the band The Police will be called The Police Mach 2, like M-A-C-H, Mach 2, for the 21st century. But it's not going to be ska punk. It's going to be thrash metal with Sting on bass, Stuart Copeland on drums, and they're kind of like going to be backing John Stamos and Donny Osmond, who are going to be like the rhythm guitar player and lead singer, respectively. John Stamos will be the rhythm guitar player, backing vocals, and Donny Osmond lead vocals. It's going to be the supergroup of the 21st century. The first supergroup of the 21st century shall be The Police, Mach 2, M-A-C-H, Mach, Mach 2, featuring Donny Osmond on lead vocals. Yay! John Stamos on rhythm guitar, backing vocals. Yay! Sting on bass. Yay! And Stuart Copeland on drums. Yay! I think that'd be fucking awesome. We're the first supergroup of the 21st century. And believe it or not, the idea that I have for the first supergroup of the 21st century, The Police, Mach 2, believe it or not, it's not like a comedy group or like a comedy troupe or anything. I'm not doing this merely as a comedic exercise or some like a band like Spinal Tap or something like that. It would be more comedy than it is rock. I'm talking about a real rock and roll band. Okay, a real rock and roll band that would be like a thrash metal band inspired by Slayer. They would actually be fronted by Donny Osmond. Donny Osmond, he's got the song Puppy Love. And John Stamos, from the great actor from the show Full House, he would be the rhythm guitar player and, of course, the backing vocalist. Sting from The Police. So it's kind of like Sting and Stuart Copeland. They want to reform The Police, but they don't want to do like ska anymore. They feel like they've made every possible statement they can with that form of music. Sting and Stuart Copeland kind of came to the conclusion that they made every possible statement they could with ska punk. They would have tried to re-challenge themselves with another musical form, and they've always been, fans of thrash metal. And they've always been fans of like bands like Slayer. So they would have formed like a new hardcore thrash metal band for the 21st century, inspired by Slayer. And of course, so they got Donny Osmond, who's a great singer, to be but he's going to have to learn how to sing like thrash metal. He can't be singing like in his like girly voice anymore. He's got to sing like in his Cookie Monster vocals. So Donny Osmond is going to have to learn how to sing like that with those like Cookie Monster heavy metal vocals, like fuck yeah, like off to Neverland, yeah. So it's like Donny Osmond's going to have to learn how to sing like James Hetfield, or to form this supergroup with Sting on bass and John Stamos from Full House on rhythm guitar, backing vocals, Stuart Copeland on drums, and so they're going to say it'd be cool if they had a new tour. So I don't know. I think Metallica's going on tour next year, so they might be booked up for 2024. I think Metallica might be booked for 2024, but what about like 2025, 2026? Looking into the future, what if who's your favorite guitarist, lead or rhythm? Okay, so my favorite lead guitarist might be. Did you ever hear of a guitar player out of England named Robin Trower? Robin Trower is from England. He's a great he's influenced by Jimi Hendrix and blues rock and Jimi Hendrix and like progressive rock. He's fucking great. Robin Trower. He's got this album called Bridge of Sighs. It's kind of like progressive rock mixed with heavy metal. Not really heavy metal, but it's kind of like a progressive blues rock mixed with hard rock. I mean, I think his influences are broad ranging, but Robin Trower, Eric Clapton, of course. Who else? There's a blues rocker that I really like called Albert Collins. He's a Texas blues man, and they call him the master of the Telecaster. Albert Collins, great blues rock artist. Um, Also, I like, believe it or not, I think Peter Buck is a great guitar player, but he doesn't really play rhythm guitar. He's kind of like he plays this jangly stuff that's not like really guitar god stuff, but it's kind of like just kind of like these jangle riffs and all these. But if you ask me, he's got a great sense of melody, and his hardest stuff is hard to play because there's a lot of nuances and a lot of harmonics in his work, and a lot of like jangly guitar riffs that are actually kind of hard to play right. They're hard to play if you're playing them right. But but he doesn't really play like guitar solos per se. But he does have a few bona fide guitar solos that are like 4 measures long or something like that. But he doesn't go into like wild improvisational solos or anything like that. But I think he should. I think he should branch out and try guitar soloing because I'm sure he could do it. But I think he just kind of fancies himself more of a guitar stylist or something like that. Oh, hi. Oh, thanks for calling me that. That's really nice. Okay, so anyways, but yeah, so I was, who else? Like Joey Santiago from the Pixies. Anybody like Joey? He's a great lead guitar player. Joey Santiago, great guitar player, great lead guitar player. Um, who else? I like. Who else do I like? I like. Um, oh, the band The Smithereens. You ever hear of a guy named Jim Babjack from The Smithereens? He's a great guitar player, great guitar solo player. I saw the Smithereens at Skokie Fest in Skokie, Illinois, a few years ago. Jim Babjack on lead guitar. He's a great lead guitar player. Bob Mould. Anybody ever heard of Bob Mould from the Pixies and Sugar? He's a great guitar player. Great lead. He plays some leads here and there. He plays. He's not like a jam band artist, but he plays leads. Um, Also, there's Dwayne Allman from the Allman Brothers was one of the best lead guitar players of all time. Actually, from X, the band X, you had Billy Zoom was a great lead guitar player. Rhythm guitar, as far as rhythm guitar players, I would actually have to say Johnny Ramone from the Ramones, great rhythm guitar player. Actually, Frank Black is a great rhythm guitar player. Black Francis from the Pixies. Um, well, his real name is Charles Thompson, but he goes by Frank Black, Black Francis. He should come up with yet another name for himself, but he's a great rhythm guitar player. Um, Dave Pirner from Soul Asylum, good guitar player, both rhythm and lead, I think. And then there's wait a minute. Oh, Mick Jagger's a good rhythm guitar player. Keith Richards is a good rhythm and lead guitar player. Then I would actually have to say Ron Wood is an awesome lead guitar player. Um, Actually, Saint Vincent, also known as Annie Clark, also known as Saint Vincent, is a great guitar player. I don't think she plays a lot of leads, but she plays rhythm guitar. PJ Harvey is a great guitar player. And she doesn't play a lot of guitar solos, but she's a great rhythm guitar player. Um, James Hetfield from Metallica is a great rhythm guitar player. Michael Stipe from REM is a great rhythm guitar player. I don't think he plays leads, but he plays rhythm. Um, Graham Parker, yeah, I don't think he plays solos or lead guitar, but he plays rhythm, and he's a great rhythm guitar player. Um, Gene Simmons from Kiss is a great bass player. Um, I actually happen to think that Ace Frehley from the band Kiss is one of the best guitar players, one of the best guitar soloists of all time. And that might be kind of a minority opinion because a lot of people think he plays sloppily, but he's got more heart and more passion than most guitar players. He plays, sure, he hits a bad note here and there. It's a little bit sloppy, but when he does hit the right notes and when he plays like a phrase that is just like really melodic and really right on, it's got more soul and more passion than just about anybody. So yeah, Ace Frehley. And I don't know why the fuck they kicked him out of Kiss. Why did they kick Ace Frehley out of Kiss? He's one of the best things that they ever had in Kiss. I mean, Ace Frehley is like, I mean, he's actually, if you ask me, he's more talented than Gene Simmons and more talented than Paul Stanley, who are both immensely talented, of course. But like, I actually think Ace Frehley was the biggest talent in the band. And, actually, Peter Criss was actually kind of an underrated drummer, underrated songwriter. He wrote Beth. Peter Criss wrote Beth. Beth, I hear you calling, but I can't come home right now. Me and the boys will be playing, and we just can't find the sound. Just a few more hours, and I'll be right home to you. I think I hear them calling. Beth, what can I do? Beth, what can I do? Beth, I know you're lonely, but I know you'll be all right. Me and the boys will be playing all night. So yeah, I was just humming a few bars from Beth, but so it's kind of funny how like Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are kind of like the ones that get the most notoriety. And sure, they're hugely talented and they're both great songwriters, but I actually think Ace Frehley and Peter Criss are even more talented. Two guys that get less notoriety and less attention are actually more talented and more inspirational for Kiss, I think. Okay, so anyways, what else do you want to talk about? Angus Young, one of the greatest. Yeah, he's one of the greatest guitar players of all time. Angus Young is fucking awesome. Yeah. Let me see here. So, do you guys like? Do you ever heard of the band called Luna? It's kind of like Luna is a band. I don't know if they're from New York or what. They might be from the East Coast. Actually, the lead singer from Luna, he went to Harvard, I think. He's a very well-educated man, and they started this band that's kind of like it kind of sounds like kind of similar to the Velvet Underground. It's almost like if you took a punk rock band and you crossed it with a jam band. It's almost like if you took like the Allman Brothers or the Grateful Dead and you crossed it with like a punk rock band like Television or the Clash, and that's Luna. And they come with all these kind of like really weird, it's kind of like nerdy intellectual type of lyrics. Their lyrics are really smart and kind of nerdy and kind of poetic and nerdy and funny, and it's not like your typical cock rock or something like that. It's kind of nerdy intellectual stuff, but like really cool like guitar solos and really funny. Yeah, I think they're from New York, aren't they? Where's Luna from? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna have to look that up. But it was one of my brother's favorite bands. My brother Pat, it was one of his favorite bands because they started out as Galaxy 500, and then they became Luna. And where did they get the name Galaxy 500? There's a car. It's like made by Pontiac. I don't think it's like, I think it's out. I don't think they make these cars anymore. But it's like there was a car made by Pontiac called the Galaxy 500, and that's where they got the name of the band. And then after Galaxy 500 broke up, they formed Luna. And Luna is kind of like a band that was spawned out of like punk rock and jam band stuff. So it was kind of like a cross between jam band and Velvet Underground inspired stuff, and punk rock. So yeah, so that's Luna, kind of like the Velvet Underground. Or anybody ever heard of a band called Buffalo Tom? They're from Boston. A band called Buffalo Tom. They've got an album called Let Me Come Over. Really good album, excellent album. I actually saw them live. Luna, original New York City, New York, USA. Yeah, so Luna is from New York, and that is well the place where some of the coolest bands come from. What's my favorite band? I would have to say the Pixies, but sometimes I feel like it's a tie between like the Pixies and the Replacements and bands like that, or like but probably the Pixies. But yeah, Luna from New York City, United States of America. So you've heard of them, yes. Cool. Um, do you guys, or guys and girls in my YouTube audience, do you listen to today's pop stars like Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo, just to name a few? Do you listen to that stuff too? And if so, what's your favorite pop star of the day? Um, Because it's funny, because I grew up with like some of the hippest music. I grew up listening to all the hippest stuff. I mean, I liked all the punk rock and all the indie rock and everything, and Sex Pistols and the Clash and everything. But then I kind of like I got to the point where I used to say like I used to think to myself that like stuff like Britney Spears and everything is like I was just above that, that it was like it was too commercial, too radio friendly, too unhip for me. But then I discovered Katy Perry, and I discovered what a great artist I thought Katy Perry was, and I discovered Miley Cyrus, and I thought like there's no reason to turn your nose up at this stuff. This is actually pretty good. They can write songs. Okay, Luna sounds cool. I'll check them out. Don't forget to check out Cardiacs. I'll check out the Cardiacs. Yeah. But so, yeah, Luna out of New York City. Um, what about The Cure? Who's a Cure fan? Do you like The Cure? Do you like Susie and the Banshees? Um, um, what about the Lemonheads? Um, wait a minute. I think Taylor Swift. Okay. I had a feeling you didn't like Taylor Swift. Okay. I like her. Anyways, okay. Katy Perry and Adele. So you think, so you don't like Taylor Swift because she just sings about her ex-teenage boyfriends and she thinks she's being liberated. Katy Perry and Adele are on top in terms of today. Yeah, I like Katy Perry better too than Taylor Swift. I like her better too, but I do like Taylor Swift. I don't want to like Taylor Swift. I know a lot of young girls love her. People worship Taylor Swift like a god. Yeah, it has gone nuts, hasn't it? Yeah, that they do worship her like a. It's crazy how much how people just adore Taylor Swift. It's amazing. It's kind of like really fascinating to watch. But I agree. I like Katy Perry better too, and Adele. I don't know too much about Adele, but Katy Perry. I think she's actually cool. But I like Taylor Swift. I think she's cool too. But I like Katy Perry better. Anyways, but they're both great. Anyways, so you know, yeah, it's interesting how Taylor Swift. I mean, there's been like the biggest tour in human history, like Taylor Swift's Eras tour. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. Really appreciate that. But it's like fascinating, like to watch this, like the Taylor Swift Eras tour. It's like talk about like a phenomenal, like a phenomenon itself. It's like yeah, they worship her like she's a god. It's amazing. But to me, the way I look at it is like it's kind of like it's exciting to watch, and it's kind of fun to watch, and it's kind of like it's kind of cool that all these young girls got this like hero that they can get behind, and they got this real sense of they get a lot of joy out of it. So what could be wrong with that? As long as they're in it for the right reason. It's like it's all about the music, you know? They love the music. It's not about the money, it's about the music. Right. And they got a good value system. They've got like good morals, stuff like that. But I think it's fascinating to watch like this whole phenomenon of the Taylor Swift. This whole Taylor Swift phenomenon is like a fascinating thing to watch. As like a person who always grew up with not like a lot of that kind of stuff. It was like always like more like punk rock and heavy metal and stuff like that. My take on Taylor Swift is that it's just like it's fascinating to see like this community that she built up. The amount of money that she makes is amazing, of course, but just like the fandom and like the fan worship that she has, and just like the love that she gets from her fans is immense, and I think it's like just it's exciting to watch, and it's like it's cool. I think even if you don't like the music, I think it's cool that she has that many fans. That like the whole Taylor Swift phenomenon in and of itself is cool. I think even if you don't like the music, but I usually don't listen to music like that myself. But I just think it's cool that she's got so many fans and that they've got something to look forward to at the end of the day. They go home after a hard day of work or a hard day of school, and they listen to Taylor Swift, or they see her on YouTube, or they see her on TV. They've got something to look forward to. They love her music, and it makes life more exciting. So that to me, that's what's really cool about it. But Taylor Swift gets over $13 million per concert. That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Wow. $13 million a concert? Holy shit. And she will have performed to over 10 million people by the end of her tour. She will have performed to over 10 million people by the end of her tour. Hey, Mike, I'm a guitarist, intermediate. Can you do the honors of choosing the next song I learn? Yeah, okay. Well, of course, I don't want to give the cliche choice of like Smoke on the Water, of course. But if you want to learn like a really good guitar song to really improve your chops, um, I would have to say, let me think. Um, First of all, are you more of a heavy metal guitar fan, or heavy metal or punk or classic rock? What about like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by either "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana, or the song "Lithium" by Nirvana, "Polly" by Nirvana, or how about okay, by you could learn um, "More Than a Feeling" by Boston, or um, how about "Rock and Roll All Night" by Kiss? I wanna rock and roll all night and party every day. That song by Kiss, "Rock and Roll All Night" by Kiss. You can learn that song, or learn. I don't want to give you the most boring, obvious choices, but of course, you can learn "Smoke in the Water" by Deep Purple. But it's kind of the obvious choice. What about "Iron Man" by Black Sabbath? "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks. Da-da-da-da-da. "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks. You could learn Alex Chilton by the Replacements. You could learn um, you could learn, you know, I would have to be the most, it would be a pretty boring, obvious thing to say Stairway to Heaven. Don't learn Stairway to Heaven because it's too overdone. Well, you can learn Stairway to Heaven if you want to, but talk about a song that's just like overplayed. I think I've heard Stairway to Heaven enough times for this lifetime, but it is a great song. But what about if you learned, if you learned When I Come Around by Green Day, or if you learned, How about Glorious by the Breeders? Or Iris by the Breeders? Monkey Gone to Heaven by the Pixies? Or if you learned, how about learning Feeling Minnesota by Soundgarden? Or you could learn Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. You could learn Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. The Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. House of the Rising Sun is a good one. House of the Rising Sun. So you're an intermediate guitarist. Yeah, House of the Rising Sun. As a matter of fact, House of the Rising Sun is one of the first songs that I ever learned. When I first learned how to play guitar, it's a great song by the Animals. I would recommend anything by the Animals. And then you could learn, how about, Limelight by The Brush. Yeah, Limelight by Rush. You could learn Fly by Night by Rush. You could learn Tom Sawyer by Rush. You could learn Closer to the Heart by Rush. You could learn War Pigs by Black Sabbath. I learned more. I learned more than a feeling by Rock and Roll and yeah, more than a feeling Rock and Roll Night. I would highly recommend that. You know why, Jack? Because more than the feeling is like it's perfect for an intermediate guitarist because it's like it's a little bit more challenging to play, but it's not like impossibly difficult to play. It's like you know. With a lot of practice, and practice makes you got to practice these songs over and over again. You got to spend at least an hour a day practicing some of these songs, and when you're not practicing, think about the songs and like think about it in your head. Think about the melody and the riff in your head, but like you got to practice about at least an hour a day, and yeah, I'd say more than a feeling of Rock and Roll All Night. Two great songs to practice if you want to learn intermediate guitar, I would say, but just practice over and over again, and it's just you get such a just learn how to love like playing music. When you love playing when you love what you do, you're great at it. So just love the music, love life, love the music, and just like really feel the music in your bones, feel it in your soul, feel it in your heart. Just like really feel it and really. In Led Zeppelin riffs, yeah. You should learn Whole Lotta Love. Actually, Whole Lotta Love was one of the first riffs I ever learned. And do you play bass? No, but let me get my guitar and I can show you. I can actually give you. I'm not going to play any more guitar. I'm just going to play one song in guitar. I'm just going to play one riff, Whole Lotta Love, as a demonstration. Okay, so this is are you there? Is wait a minute. Okay. So this is Whole Lotta Love, Led Zeppelin. So it's basically a power chord. It's like So that was actually that was a whole lot of love. That was a riff for a whole lot of love. But actually, so believe it or not, I practice like 3 to 4 hours a day, and a whole lot of love is a good song though. Oh yeah, so yeah, whole lot of love. This was the first song that I ever. That was like one of the first riffs I ever learned. My brother taught it to me on guitar. But it's basically just like two notes and then a power chord. You just go da 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 da. It's pretty much just pretty easy to play actually. But if you practice like, believe it or not, I practice 3 hours a day, and a whole lot of love is a good. Yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, I would recommend Rock and Roll All Night or Whole Lot of Love. Um, and then of course, you could practice. Um, let's see. There's I don't know. You could practice. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, I would recommend a whole lot of love and um, let's see. There's rock and roll night, stuff like that. So, but yeah, Jack, do you have a YouTube channel? Because if you do, I'd like to see some of your music on it. Do you have do you have music on your YouTube channel? Because I'd like to see your development. I'd like to be witness to your development and like hear your music. Because I mean, I'm very flattered by some of these comments I'm getting, and I like to return compliments. I don't like to just be the receptor of everybody's compliments. I want to give out some compliments because I like to flatter people myself. So if you have if you have your music on YouTube, I want to check it out. I do, and I have music video. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out, Jack, because um, I don't want to just like get it be I want to give some compliments out of my own because I truly appreciate other people's music too, and I love giving credit where credit is due. Okay. I'm having a problem with the screen. It keeps freezing up on me. Okay. But I really appreciate this audience I have. Wait a minute. God damn it! The screen just keeps freezing up. Come on, what's going on? Well, it's okay. The screen is frozen, but I'm still talking. Um, let's see. Um, okay, so I really enjoyed talking. I might be doing another live stream tomorrow night under the title Mike Live. Keep laughing, but that I might do another rock and roll discussion tomorrow because it seems like I get like a lot of people really seem to enjoy that when I do these rock and roll discussions. I get a lot of people in the audience, and a lot of people seem to love to talk about music and analyze music and have debates about it, and um, seems like a lot of people are into that. So a lot of people love to talk music, and I'm one of them. So I want to keep doing more rock and roll discussions. Um, I was trying to think of a good title, like a good thing to call my rock and roll debate show or rock and roll discussion show, and I was calling it Rock Talk for a while, but I don't know if this is the best title I can come up with. A lot of different things you can call it, I think, but yeah. But so, Jack, are you still there? Yeah. So yeah, I want to check out your music videos, and I want to see what and keep practicing. I hope you really develop your skills, and let's see. Um, what else? Well, anyways, I really appreciate this audience that I have for my YouTube live stream tonight. I'm going to be tuning out right now. I'm going to actually have to get going. I have to go eat dinner because it's actually 8:30 in Chicagoland where I live, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. But I'm really happy for this audience that I've had, and I plan on probably doing another live stream tomorrow night, and I'd like to talk some more music. And I hope you keep watching my videos, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later, Ken. Nice talking to you. Bye.